Good afternoon, everyone. It is time for our weekly meeting where we are going to be sharing a slideshow, a presentation around imposter syndrome. We're calling it Imposter Be Gone because at the end of it, what we're hoping to achieve is that you have a deeper understanding of some aspects of imposter syndrome in a way to help you decide for yourself if in fact you are somebody who is living with that kind of experience within. We lead you with two lovely kind of quick fix situational supports. So two things you can actually do in different situations that can actually get you out of that imposter freeze frame, moving forward again. And although we know it is just something that is like putting a plaster on, we do realize that anybody on a journey to reduce the imposter control in their life need a few tools and tips along the way until they actually reach that point where they have got it fully under control and in their reins. So without further ado, I want to begin this presentation. I also will be telling you right at the end about a program I'm launching in August, in case it is something that is of interest to you or someone you know and care about who is struggling with imposter syndrome, and it is seemingly limiting what their genius absolutely is. So let's get sharing with the screen. Right, there you go. I love this picture because I think for me, what it represents is that sense of being in the darkness sometimes when we are battling with our own inner conversation, with our own sense of who we are and the disconnect between that, that part that we see ourselves as, how we believe or expect others want us to be out there in the world. And it forces us to build these masks that protect our vulnerability on the inside, and from everybody potentially finding out that in fact we're a fraud, which is not true. And I hope in my talk today that I share with you, you'll understand why. It should make some sense. Maybe there'll be a little bit of relief for you, because there's nothing worse than walking around with a deep dark secret tucked away inside that you're too afraid to share with anybody else. I'm your person. If you want to share, let's have a chat. But first, let me share with you what I have uncovered as I continue to explore this phenomenon, in the hope that I can help leaders, business owners, and any individual who is battling in their relationships or ability to succeed in any endeavor, because this imposter has been hanging around for way too long. Right, so my name is Tess. I've been a life and business coach over the years. It's been about 16 years now. I started out as a life coach. My original qualification was in life coaching. I have a deep love of working with people. It's become a personal development sort of journey for myself. But I love helping people unpick and make sense of whatever thing they're stuck in the moment with regards to their life. But as I've gone along on the 16 years, starting my own business and going through all the challenges that brings up, I did a few courses. I've studied through people like Anthony Robbins, online and offline, to navigate the journey of the business coach. I now am also aligning with another company called Start Up for 10. We were bringing a fantastic business model to Aberdeen in September, but that conversation we'll have another time. But really my journey is a combination of working with solopreneurs, leaders, managers, and top management, helping them to navigate their way through whatever journey they're on. So from personal development through to business support and guidance, I listen, I support, and I help you bring the answers out of yourself, because invariably with most of the people that I've worked with, I have found that fundamentally they carry the answer inside, and it's just a matter of bringing that out. And when it comes to imposter syndrome, there is often a bigger, thicker layer of resistance and barrier to the magic that is hidden within you. And if we can shrink this imposter, then I bet you a lot of your magic and all your worth will start showing up. So as you can see on the one side here, there's a number of areas that I can help people with. It is quite a long list, so I've just mentioned a few things here, but the core of it is support, holding accountable, and then finding the right action steps to take to get my clients to the destination that is on their horizon. Mind Blocks believes that your voice is your power, and if you are hiding behind veils of limiting thoughts or self-doubt or unclear about your next steps, you are not able to represent yourself in your best way. And so we want to help you find your voice because we believe your voice is your power. Now, their definition, or some kind of definition, if you want to understand imposter syndrome, is a beautiful piece of work I got from Claire Jose, who has written the amazing book called Ditch Imposter Syndrome. And she writes here, as you can see before you, imposter syndrome happens when there is a mismatch between who you see yourself as currently being and who you think you need to be to achieve or create a goal, despite the evidence that you're more than capable. So basically, what are we saying here in essence? We're saying you've got the qualifications, you've got everything you need to go out there and smash it, but something inside yourself is discounting all your achievements, all your worth, and is putting it down to very, very small thinking, because potentially somewhere along your journey, you had an experience or multiple experiences that really damaged your view of yourself. Sometimes I spoke to a guy a little while ago, and it turned out that it was actually a very tiny little thing that had happened in one moment in his childhood when he experienced something at a very high emotional level. And because he was in such a high emotional level, as you'll hear about when it comes to anchoring and NLP, and he took that information in, it really set a course of events in motion, and he started building his life on top of this limiting belief. And so the imposter was born. So if you're feeling like there's a mismatch because you know in your head the accolades are on the wall, the certificates, the qualifications, or for some people who haven't been to university or haven't got those degrees, you've got the life skills, you've put the hours in, you've worked your way up the ladder, you've earned your space, but something is telling you that it's all a big farce. So I love this. Claire just really put it in a nutshell there, and has been a great inspiration and teacher to me as I have begun to dig deeper into the knowledge of this dynamic. So the experts do say that when it comes to imposter syndrome, and you want to really look and ask yourself a couple of questions to identify whether this is you or not, you might be coming up with one of these or all three of these situations. The belief that you got where you are by fooling other people, the fear of being exposed as an imposter or a fraud, or the inability to attribute your achievements to internal qualities such as abilities or intelligence. And I think in the previous slide, I kind of hinted to that, you know, believing that somehow it's by pure luck and fooling others that you are where you are. So this is an indication. If you look at these things, this is a situation where people are in roles of leadership or a role of higher up in their organization, or they've come out of a leadership role, have started their own business, and are still playing the old story, the old tape, even though the whole situation is very different and the dynamic is not the same. Feeling like a fraud and being afraid you'll be caught out. Horrible, horrible, horrible feeling. because it just really taps into the anxiety and it shaves all the spark of any presentation, any conversation, any magic that happens when people really connect with themselves so that they actually shine a light on the cause, the purpose, or the project that they've been working on probably for hours and hours and hours. The inability to attribute your achievements to internal qualities such as abilities or intelligence. So yes, having those pieces of paper that say you are worthy of this experience, you've got the results, you've got the degree, the diploma, the certificate, and you still question. So imposter syndrome is a subconscious identity level issue. It's the kind of situation where you are on a level you can't even reach because it's invisible. You are questioning your identity, okay, your worth. And that is a really difficult thing to solve, to sort out all by yourself, because at the end of the day, it's you with an aspect of you, your perception of that part of you. And so who could possibly step in and say, hey, wait a minute, is this the case? Or what does that feel like? Or what does that look like? And let's begin separating what is fact from what is a emotional attachment based on something that had happened sometime in the past that has begun building and shaping this. So perhaps you tend to ask similar questions to the ones you can see on the screen, like, who am I to do that? So you get offered an opportunity, maybe go for promotion, or get an opportunity to lead a certain group. Hundreds of different examples come to mind. And you think inside yourself, wow, first you get excited and then immediately you go, who am I? Who am I to do that? What if they find me out? What if they realize that I'm a fraud? And what if they spot that I don't belong here? When we deal with so much anxiety inside and so many doubts and questions about our worth and our esteem is low, we never feel as though we fit in. And it is very debilitating because you actually then don't fit in. And when things play out in a way that makes you feel justified by those thoughts, it is possible that if it is imposter thinking and that phenomenon kicking in, that if we could just resolve that, we could come up for air and begin to navigate a new way forward with results where you actually finally feel like you belong, you're part of the team, you know? So imposter syndrome self-talk vocabulary is about who we are, not about what we do. So if we want to go back to that first quote with the mismatch, what you're clashing with a lot of the times is that you've got all the degrees and the qualifications on the wall that justify you capable of doing your job, your role, your function, whatever that is. But the thing you're really battling with that is getting in the way is about who you believe you are, who you think you are, and how you talk to yourself about yourself. That seems to clash with the pieces of paper and the role you play. And it is kind of all happening in this very quick-spaced mental place, which is affecting our physical feelings. So that's where the anxiety kicks in, perhaps the depression, and all the other things that go along with it. So when we're talking to ourselves like that, it's about how we see ourselves as a person, not our thoughts or feelings or actions or mindset. That's why, I mean, when I'm working with certain people, I am helping them with their mindset, fixed or growth mindset. When it comes to somebody with imposter syndrome, or when we identify that that is the case, those actions relating to mindset or setting great tasks are not going to be helpful for them. What it really is that there's a step or two or three before that to discover and understand the imposter that you have been nurturing, see how we can shrink that with a new set of thoughts, changing habits, and then testing actions, then testing mindset. So it's almost like going back a few steps before the planning, take action, achieve role. Because once the imposter is removed, there's no doubt that you'll be able to set the action steps and your mindset will just be strong, solid, and forward focused. So imposter syndrome isn't a mind trap or mindset issue. It's about who we see ourselves as being, an identity level issue. Does that make more sense now than when I first said it? Really, at the end of the day, we can all be able to do tasks and be functional. This is where imposter syndrome in an individual can be so difficult to discover, because on the outside, they are observed to be people who have achieved the highest of accolades. They run companies, they lead massive teams with hundreds of thousands, even billions pounds of turnover. And they are still masking this inside grief and unhappiness, because at any point they could be exposed, and nobody should live like that. So each person does struggle with imposter syndrome in a different way. It really, just like we're all that unique and different, we've all come up through our worlds in different ways, different experiences, different parents, different schools, organizations, influences, different years, different generations. So no two people are ever going to be the same. And that is the same with their imposter and how it operates in them, because it is very much about how they think about themselves. So imposter syndrome triggers the part of the brain that wants to protect us. So it's that part of the brain, where we experience the shame, embarrassment, and rejection. And these things are all related to things that we think about, things we can't have happen, and then that feeling that we do not want to feel. So it's very much that protection. Are we looking at fight, flight, that kind of really basic function that is there, had a place back in the day when we were still in the cave, where we were hunting for our food, and we needed to have sharp instincts about instant potential danger. But we've all read the books, and if you haven't, I'm sure there's plenty out there you can find. But at the end of the day, we are a lot more civilized now. Our life experience is not filled with the same level of imminent risk as it was then. And so I guess that part of our brain is still necessary, because it helps us know when to not put our foot in the road when the bus is coming past, where we need to tap into our instincts. But at the end of the day, it exists. And, imposter can trigger that part of us, that high adrenaline space. Nobody wants to be shamed, embarrassed, or rejected. It's often, people's greatest fears. And you don't have to have imposter syndrome to not want to experience those things. But saying that, in imposter syndrome, it's like magnified, that fear factor, but it's magnified on the inside. So can you imagine something magnified, but it's pushing on the inside of your body, it's pushing on you. So the internal pressure is pushing on you. That fear is so intense. Whereas if it was sort of projected outward, it could go into infinity and sort of be lighter. When it's inside and it's to that level, that degree of pressure, you can't forget that it exists. So here in the workspace is a slide of what somebody in the office, regardless of their positional role, might be experiencing. If you're coming out of university and you're just starting your first position, you might not be MD, CEO, or lead manager in a division, but you are a beginner and you've come out of university with your piece of paper and you are still questioning why the heck they hired you, because, my God, you know nothing. Yeah. Or it's you've just got promoted somewhere and there's this cycle of behavior that you have learned to live with. And I'm sure you can notice some of the key things that come up here. So achievements related to tasks. So basically you've got the qualification, you can do the job. So you go out and you find that as you're going out and you're starting to do the tasks at hand, you're living, like I mentioned earlier, with anxiety, self-doubt, and worry. So this can divide up into two different behaviors, or maybe a combination of both. You're over-preparing, or you're procrastinating. Perhaps you're also very, very uncertain of, in that procrastination, what to do next. So feelings that you will identify with on the procrastination side is that perhaps it was luck that you actually got it done. It was by pure luck that nothing stopped you at that final hour to get that last bit of paper completed. For the over preparation person, you're like putting so much effort in, you are shattered by the end. But you would get good feedback because you're delivering a high quality piece of work, whether you've done it in 5 minutes or 5 hours. The self-imposter has the capabilities of genius when it comes to actually putting together what they put together, fighting up against all this internal pressure. So accomplishments, feeling of relief. So the moment the job's done, it's like, oh my God, thank you. And of course, as I said, you don't really receive any positive feedback. You are saying, well, it was luck, or oh, you won't believe how hard I worked. And so then you end up going back up to that sense of being a fraud, because you haven't really executed in a smooth, calm way. It's just been packed with anxiety and pressure, and constant doubt and fear that you're going to be criticized for the delivery. And then, you go back up to the next task and begin the cycle again. It's no fun. I don't think it's fun. I've been here. I still have parts of it that are here. Listen, I'm in no way free of imposter syndrome, but I have navigated many, many ways to work it better, and it's improving daily. So it's phenomenal. So there are 4 Ps in imposter syndrome that they like to mention. You can have a Google and a deeper read if you like. But what these are some of the things that maybe you want to just jot down and have a look at or rewatch. These are key things that you can use to identify whether imposter syndrome is kind of kicking off within you, and maybe, we could look at how intensely, or you might observe this kind of behavior in somebody else that you work with who might be battling with this. So perfectionism, that over preparation piece in the last slide, the sense of fighting, working so hard to push that boulder up the hill to get the work done. So the internal imposter has high standards and they battle with tasks. I mean, at what point is it shiny enough, read over enough until it's safe to send out there, which is very different from somebody with the ability to complete a piece of work, read over, check grammar, spelling, the basics, and then go, right, this is good enough. I believe I've caught all the major essence and I'm going to hand it in, Tough one for a lot of people. I think schooling doesn't help us, you got it wrong, we get fearful of getting it wrong, so we overwork a piece of work and end up perhaps even delivering something of a lesser value because we make too many changes. In the corporate world, you could observe people who are micromanaging, nitpicking, and unfortunately, sadly perceived as a bully boss. Bully bosses are not waking up every day going out to want to be a bully. This is something else working in the background that is impacting their ability to cope. And you might not agree with me, and it might not always be the case, but I think 9 times out of 10, if you looked a little deeper, You might notice there's an imposter kicking off there. Have some empathy, perhaps, and perhaps have a chat, which might be very difficult. But speak to me first if you want to approach somebody about their possible imposter syndrome dynamics and behavior. In solopreneurs, we're looking at just one more course. How many solopreneurs out there have said, I'll do just one more course, hoping this will make me good enough to be able to go out there and offer my service? Now, there is a difference there between constantly developing in your particular field, being a forever learner so that you keep up with the times, versus never getting off first base because it's another course, another course, another course. So perfectionism is your fight response. Then we have procrastination. And this in the poll that I ran on LinkedIn recently came up as the top, the highest percentage of people noticed the imposter syndrome of their behavior highlighted over the top 4. So procrastination is the flight piece. This is where we can't actually get started. We're in an avoidance type mindset, and we are like, you know, when things are all over the show and you can't get going. It's like you're stuck in the pen, the horse is kicking off, the race has started, and you still can't find the exit, you know. So what we can observe with somebody who is struggling with procrastination is busyness, creating tasks to fill time, never making tangible progress, or sometimes finishing, but taking so long that it actually doesn't matter that it's complete because you've missed the deadline. Not completing projects. This is probably a lot more evident in the solopreneur business, or the person who has their own business, where they're doing a lot of lessons, a lot of learning, starting projects, and then getting distracted by the next shiny object. And so there's a whole heap of unfinished work waiting with tons and tons of revenue attached to it. But they aren't getting to that point because they never bring it out. A drowning to-do list, a to-do list that just grows from day to day. I have an amazing success planner designed by an amazing client of mine who did an amazing program with somebody else, and then put these amazing journals together so that you can never have a list that goes beyond your arm's length. But anyway, that will bring you later. I'm going to have a chat with her in an interview soon, and we'll tell you more about that. But a drowning to-do list where you never feel like you're getting anywhere, because as you achieve one thing, 3 more things come in. And burnout, well, isn't that obvious? You're not getting anywhere. You're not getting anything done. You're on a perpetual hamster wheel. You're starting things all the time. You've got so many things to do because you're saying yes all the time, but you're never ever getting to the point where it's like job well done, or, you know, what a great feeling. It's just always relief. It's absolute relief when you finally get done. Where's my little arrow? There we go. Then we come to paralysis. Now, this was actually lowest on the poll, if I can recall. It's the freeze point. It's when we're perhaps in a board meeting, or we're in a room full of people and there's a Q&A session, or you're at home and you're in a difficult conversation about something. You know exactly what you want to say in the boardroom. You know exactly how you can help the situation, make a good point, bring some valuable content that's going to shape the way forward, and you're going to freeze frame, where everything that you were about to say when you're asked just disappears. The other side of this is when we have important things to do and we're pretending that they're still not close by. So it's not tomorrow that's due. It's like, it feels like next week. But when you wake up tomorrow, which will be today, suddenly you've got 2-3 hours and you are totally under pressure to get it done. But you're so used to working in that state that you actually do it. You just don't feel well. We pretend we can't see the looming task. And this is where the procrastination mixed up with this means we're doing a whole lot of things that are not necessary, as we're avoiding the starting of something, and we are freezing in the process until perhaps the last minute. And sadly, for some people, they actually miss the deadline entirely and they don't actually get off the mark. Job opportunities, job application forms, putting in entrance for various opportunities, going for promotions, lots of things where paralysis. You see, you're not frozen. You're not in an icebox. You're moving around. You're living your life. You're making your lists. You're working. But that one thing that you want more than anything else, you're frozen in action there. And then the last one, which it's often explained to be the thing that we actually create, part of the mask that we develop as we navigate our three imposters, the fight, flight, and freeze behaviors. We become people pleasers because it is a stress response that we learn as a way to cope or deflect. So taking on tasks you don't need to do, poor boundaries. So you say yes when you should say no, and you know it as you're saying yes. You actually know before you even reply, you should be saying no. Overgiving and not charging or earning what you're worth. So these are 4 of probably very many, many examples, but they actually come together and make a lot of sense. This is now the 3rd time I'm running this workshop, and in the previous 2, it is a really obvious one for some people who notice why they are just spiraling, because they've got a combination of all 4 of these kicking off, and the one feeds into the other. And you know what? They're the most amazing, beautiful people, capable, loving, kind, and helpful people who are just drowning because they don't know how to say no, because that links back all to this relationship with themselves inside. And listen, it doesn't have to stay like this. So don't get depressed. Don't start crying. Life's not over. This is actually, I'm making it out to be really big, but when you tackle it, when you begin to understand it and you realize what's going on, a lot of pressure is released, and you've got space to breathe again. So, and there are solutions. Like this one, for instance, we all know Superman. And if you haven't already heard about the Superwoman or Superman or Superperson pose, it is a very empowering and grounding exercise you can do anywhere where you find yourself just before you're about to perhaps go into a presentation, speak from the stage, go into a difficult conversation. The headmaster and the pupil springs to mind, or the boss and the employee springs to mind, a job interview, any situation where you have to go and kind of almost speak for yourself, put yourself forward. This power pose is really empowering. I do have it, I think, on my YouTube channel, but basically legs, feet, shoulder width apart, hands on hips, rather than like that, really more holding your hips, not in the waist though, but in the hips, and standing with your shoulders back, neck up, looking up, and stand for 2 minutes. Now, I do have the joke. I say, don't do this in the waiting room or in the reception area or at the podium just before you start speaking. Rather, do it before you enter the space. So go to the loo, just outside by the car, whatever it is, because you set your solid foundation. You feel the grounding. You think about how empowered you are to go and tackle this next thing that you're about to do with strength, with ability, with conviction, because you're the best. And you go in, and this grounding just like, I don't know, it like centers everything, and it just makes you capable of delivering something really amazing. More amazing than the shaky, self-doubt ridden person who just probably 10 to 15 minutes ago finished the presentation, So that is great. It is a plaster, obviously, but you can use it again and again and again. And it can be a really nice, slow way to really start seeing what you're capable of, because that grounding piece really holds you in a beautiful place. So that is one exercise you can take away, give it a try, you know, and just do it before you go to work every day. Do it before you come and sit at your desk, solopreneur. Do it for no particular reason whatsoever, except you just want to get grounded and see the difference that you feel inside and acknowledge it. The second exercise I want to share with you here is one that I started doing probably about 12 months ago, just simply because I was a very famous procrastinator, and it was just doing my head in because I just had too much important work to do and commitments for clients, and the procrastination piece was impacting the quality that I was delivering. Well, that was probably my imposter talking, but at the end of the day, I was really needing to spend less time waiting to get started and more time in the work. So what I did was I created a process of movement mixed with the right inner dialogue. And in the summer months, what I've been doing is walking in my garden. I have a nice circular area that I can walk in. The moment I notice this procrastination behavior, paralysis kicking in, or the over perfectionism it works well for as well, I would pick myself up with a cup of tea, glass of water, and go and start walking in a clockwise direction in my garden, breathing and calming myself down and saying, okay, one, you're going to go and press send, no more checking, it's good enough. Or it was, okay, you want to start the new presentation project, email, letter, social media post, whatever it is for you. What's stopping you? Okay, is it a few of those other things like, you know, fear that it's going to go wrong, whatever. And so as I was walking, I would be directing my thinking back into a stable place. This is all the things we'll create in the course that I'm going to run. But basically, I'll be walking myself through the procrastination to the action. And because I'm walking and I'm moving, psychologically up here, I feel as though I've already begun. And it is that I find is very helpful. Again, it's like a plaster, but I tell you what, if you're in procrastination phase, you need to find something that can get you out of that. And this is the loveliest, kindest, nicest way to get a procrastinator moving. So if you start seeing people in your office starting to walk around a little bit, whether it's circular or just up and down the corridor, it could be that they're ready to go into a new project or piece of work, and they're just speaking to their procrastinator and saying, come on, let's get going. So you do that, you come back, you sit down, and you get going. And all you need to do is type that first word, write that first thing, draw that first line, and you're off. So those are the two exercises that I wanted to share with you in this presentation today. Because at the end of the day, as we said to start off with, your voice is your power. Your voice is the representation of you in what you do, what you studied, your various knowledge, your value, your worth, and it comes out in the way that you represent. So we want to ask you, are you ready to face your imposter? Are you ready to come and work with us and really begin to find a way through? First understand, then see what the options are, and then begin to choose which way you're going to navigate in a safe, supportive, and loving environment. The Imposter Begone program is looking something to the effect of this. This is really sort of just a rough draft right now. We're just fine-tuning it, improving it, refining it. So it's a 12-month program. Here are the 12 modules that we will be focusing on. And really, at the end of the day, there was talk about doing it in a shorter space of time. But at the end of the day, we are very aware of the pressure that imposters put upon themselves. The last thing anybody needs if they're trying to shrink an imposter persona is to be put under huge pressure over a short period of time in which to turn their life around and suddenly be gone imposter. So it is very strategic, very carefully planned out, but very much about one module time to implement, understand, work that in. Like when you're making bread, you don't throw all the ingredients in and mix it up and throw it in the oven and boom, it's ready baked to eat. With yeast and time and the right combination and the right order, you get the most beautiful, soft, fresh, tasty bread or cake. And so this is why it is a 12-month commitment to this process. We want you at the end of 12 months to be able to stand up and speak to your imposter in a way that you have never been able to up until this point. Yeah, so it's a 12-month program. We will have 12 90-minute online group sessions. We will have 6 30-minute personal sessions where with each individual over the 12 months, we will meet 6 times and check in with one another. And this is where, you know, when you've got a particular sticking point or you are really struggling to move forward on a particular area, this is the opportunity where you can really open up with faith and trust that you are speaking to the person who's going to help you find the answer inside. And so that's really going to be where I suppose some magic moments happen. And most of the magic will happen in the 90-minute sessions in the room, interacting with others on the same program, but on a completely unique journey. We will also do 60-minute Q&A sessions every alternate month, where we will meet online, and everybody in the program will be bringing questions to challenge their imposter journey, to challenge me, to really put out on the table what the frustrations are, what the discoveries are, where the battles are, and we'll just work it, you know, work it out. We have to articulate what is trapped within us. And this is one way where we believe you can really begin to see it for what it is and really understand that it's your mirroring view, what you see, what you feel, that is going to be evolving, so that the real you can stand up, stand out, and be appreciated, and that you can appreciate yourself along the way. Let me think. There's also a workbook. The workbook will be there to guide you through the steps, and we will either put it in a flip file and issue the parts to each module each month, because we don't want you to get overwhelmed. But essentially it is to have all your information in one place, so that you can actually use that as acknowledgement of your worth. We will have a closed Facebook group, because everybody does. And if you're building a connection with people over 12 months and you're going to be having amazing experiences along this journey, what better place than to celebrate and acknowledge ourselves than in our very private group with everybody who's taking part, and practicing being vulnerable, practicing rewarding each other's, acknowledging each other's, and acknowledging ourselves. So that is the key. We'll be starting around the 8th of August. At the moment, the date is kind of in the air. If it's not the 8th of August, it will be 2 weeks after that. But we are just looking for people who feel like this is something of interest to them, that they would like to explore more about the course. Get in touch. If you feel that the imposter aspects of your life experience is getting in the way, then what I'd like to suggest is that you actually do book a discovery call with me. Let's have a private one-to-one chat, and okay, let's identify if it really is imposter syndrome or if there's something else going on. We only have space in this program for 12 individuals, so we will only run this course once a year. So it is limited, but it's only because it's a very special program. And the most important part is that the 12 people who join us are people who, one, are in the right place, two, are ready to step up and face what is going to be at times challenging, but at the same time, so liberating when you get to the end. And I definitely do not want to be churning out a factory of imposterless people. I want to help 12 people find a new way to get up in the morning and live with life free of imposter syndrome, and go forward and get those promotions, or leave that job, or travel the world, or take that holiday that you've been holding back on for so long. And let's change some lives in a way that is so empowering for everybody involved. So if it's of interest to you, please just message me on Tess the day at mindblocks.co.uk. Email me and say I'm interested in the Imposter Syndrome program, and then I'll send you a calendar link. We can have a short 15-minute meeting, and just establish what the way forward is and take it from there. So yeah, thank you very much for your time today. It was a delight to have you listen in. If you have any questions, please just send them over and we'll get right back to you. But other than that, enjoy the rest of your day and speak to you soon. Bye for now.